Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chief Software Architect for the Microsoft Corporation, Bill Gates.
Welcome to the Longhorn PDC. We've been looking forward to this event for a long time. It was fantastic to see the response to this event. Of course, this is a year where most computer-related shows are a lot smaller than they were in the past. And so we weren't sure what to expect when we put up the sign-ups for this PDC. We were amazed that this is actually a record PDC. We had more sign-ups than we've ever had for any PDC. So thanks for your response. It's great to see you all here. Outlook Express and IE for safer email and browsing. It uses some of the new hardware features in the newer chips to block a large class of exploits. It changes the way we do some of the code protection. We recompile a lot of the key modules. That goes into beta later this year, SB2. And then on the server, a lot of these, being able to catch the cases where you need to scan remotely or locally, and then simple configuration where you can say what the type of the server is and have all things locked down according to exactly that use. Again, we'll beta that in the first half of next year. So think about firewall and updating as two key areas that we're to make sure that those are done very, very well, and give people tools to make sure that they won't have any problems because they're applying those techniques. A very big release, the biggest release of this decade, the biggest since Windows 95. We're tackling three different areas. The fundamentals, that means the security, the auto installation, applications not interfering with each other. There's a lot in the fundamental area. Jim has very deep passion for this, and he'll be going through all the different things that we've been able to do there. It's an advance for customers, being able to connect up, being able to have your information appear on all your different devices, having that information structured without you doing a lot of work, having less commands despite the new richness that's there, and using capabilities around the agent to take and put you in control, so that understanding your privacy and what mail's coming into you, you feel like you have a few simple things you do that put you back in the driver's seat there, so you have confidence and control. Unified storage for more than a decade. The idea of taking the XML flexibility, database technology, getting it into the file system, that's been a holy grail for me for quite some time. And here it is. Thank goodness we've got the powerful systems to be able to do this. Thank goodness we have the evolution around XML and user interface capabilities so that this can all come together. And then finally, the piece that takes a lot of things that were extra cost options, queuing software, transaction software, pub sub software, and takes this new messaging approach and makes it built into the platform. So connecting up between applications, whether it's within the system or across the entire globe, that is very straightforward. We want to give you a quick glimpse of some of these things and how they come together. So I want to invite the person who's really driving the user interface to come together to give you a look. So let me ask Hillel Cooperman to come up and give you a sense of what Longhorn's all about. Morning, Hillel. Thanks, Mike. How's everybody doing? Okay? Well, maybe we can get you a little more excited. Do you want to see Longhorn? Yeah! All right, let's take a look. Let's bring it up on the screen here. Now, we're going to start off with Control-Alt-Delete, because it wouldn't be Windows without Control-Alt-Delete, right? Clapping for Control-Alt-Delete. That's all right, you can clap for it. Save your claps, I got better stuff. All right. So here, we're going to log in. And when I log in, I want to show you the brand new Longhorn desktop. Here it is.
Let's open up a window. See how that comes in. A couple things are going on here. First, there's a new look. And as excited as we are about that, and we hope you think it's exciting and beautiful and professional, but it's still early. The most exciting part is that making a new look is relatively easy. Building this deep into the platform, this part of the platform that you get to take advantage of, that's tough, and that's what we've been working on. So if you notice, things like the transparency that we have here on the windows, watch as I move this kind of under this guy on the side, you can see it in the background there. Let me open up a couple more windows. Watch how these actually animate onto the screen. And this is using things that are part of Avalon, like Bill talked about, including things like pixel shaders, the desktop composition, all this advanced graphics functionality that to date has been typically in the domain of game developers, now available to actually render UI right on the desktop and, of course, in your applications. And just in case anyone is thinking that maybe this is some kind of prototype or something, let's run a classic application. Anyone remember VisiCalc? There it is. It's 20 years commitment to compatibility. Now we're going to see if we have 20 years commitment to usability, because I'm going to figure out how to quit this thing. /SQY. Oh yeah, there we go. All right, so let's take a quick look at the desktop, and before we move on to some of the big pillars that Bill talked about, I want to talk to you guys about that guy on the side there. It's pretty prominent, so we should address it. Right now we're calling it the sidebar. We'll figure out what the final name is at some point. But what's interesting about this is a couple things. First, it actually builds in these common parts that show information, notifications, services that a user might really be interested in seeing when they're working on their main application without popping up a window that covers it. For example, the time, or their buddy list, or a slideshow, which of course you can add and remove these tiles here, or even an RSS feed built right into the sidebar. Anyone here blogging? Or about to blog when they get, who's going to be the first person after the keynote to go and post on their blog? Scoble, okay. Well, we'll see, it's going to be a race. But the best part about this is not that we have this functionality built into Windows. The best part, like everything I'm going to show you today, is that this is part of the platform. This is part of the SDK that you guys are going to get. You guys can write to it. We think you can do great, great things with this. All right, so let's dive into some of the things Bill talked about. Let me open up this documents window. Now, in some ways, this is a pretty straightforward screen. This is essentially the evolution of my documents, but a couple of things are different. First of all, we're showing almost 1,100 items in this view, which, frankly, given today's experience, it would be a little not useful. And in fact, these items are not sitting in one folder. They're located across the system. And this view is actually a dynamic view that's generated for you right in the system, and of course, available as part of the platform. So let's do a simple thing that you'd think would be simple today, but WinFS is going to provide built-in search facilities. So I have 1,100 items. I want to find all the items that have something to do with Longhorn. So as I type, I want you to watch the number right here, 1095, go down to 30. See how fast that happens. By the time I'm done typing, we're down from 1,100 to 30 items right there in the system. Now, built-in search capabilities, this is something you're going to expect. But let's talk about the kind of self-organization that Bill talked about in WinFS. For example, let's say we want to take these 1,100 items and organize them by a property that's built into the schema. So right here we have author. We click on author, and we could actually filter down the 1,100 based on who the author is, or we can do this new thing called stack. And when I click on stack, it's actually draw a new view that shows all these items in these stacks by who wrote them. And in fact, if you look carefully at the stacks, they have different heights depending on how many items are represented in them. And because they're not physical locations, one item can show up in more than one stack. And these are not folders that went created. This is dynamic view being built for me on the fly based on the rich, structured metadata that's sitting in WinFS on these items. So let's double click on Bill. Now, the properties that are built into the schema are well and good, but of course you're going to want to add your own. And it's not just users and IT professionals, but of course, developers. They're going to go extend these schema in any way they want. So let's actually add a property right now. Let's add project to our view. I click right here on project, and I can stack by project. And in fact, I can go down here and see, here's all the stacks, and these 5 items down here aren't attached to any project. So you might think, based on how it works today, that painting metadata on an item in the file system is difficult. Right-click and go into the tabs, and it's a kind of a cumbersome process. I'm going to take this document right here, and anyone who loves their tablet will notice that we have ink file names right in the shell view. I'm going to take the, you can clap for ink file names. And I'm going to take this, and I'm going to, painting metadata on it, for example, the Windows Longhorn project is as simple as drag and drop. And in fact, I didn't actually put it in a folder, I just painted metadata on it. If I double click on Windows Longhorn, sure enough, that document is going to show up in our query results right here. Here it is. All right, one more thing. You might say, well, I understand that these views are generated dynamically. I understand this is all based on this structured metadata that Bill was talking about, but I could kind of approximate this with folders today. I could make a bunch of folders for authors, and then within them have project folders. I'll tell you something you couldn't do. You couldn't do it, have that exist, and do the reverse. For example, be able to navigate first author, then project, or first project, then author. So let's actually take a look. And if you notice, by the way, notice where my cursor is. As I've gone through the system, it's actually built the query for me right in the user interface. So let's go back up to documents, and instead of documents, Bill Gates, Windows Longhorn, let's go add project to this view again. Let's stack by project. Let's scroll down and go to Windows Longhorn, all getting dynamically generated by WinFS. Stack by author. Double click on Bill, and there's the same 50 documents that we showed in the original query coming at it from a different direction. And the best part about this is not just that you can do this in the system, but all this is available to you as developers, as part of the platform, whether you want to use the common controls or talk directly to WinFS and render it any way you want. All right, so there are a lot of documents in the world, but having structured information in your system is not just about documents. For example, what about people? Bill talked about actually having all the different ways that people get out of sync today. You store people in cell phone, people in groups, in your buddy list, in your address book, in your corporate directory. Right now, we're going to represent this non-file item right here. Again, in another one of these views, this is people and groups, again, viewed in the same way that we view documents. This first thing right here is a group. All these are people. I can right-click on Bill, for example. In fact, there's a bunch of things I can do with him here. So I could add him to my sidebar, so he would end up right here on my buddy list. Bill and I are often having buddy list conversations late into the night. And I could do something called show communication history. Today, if I want to see all the faxes, all the files that Bill shared with me, all the notifications or emails, I have to go to several different programs to go see all that stuff. Right here, I can actually generate this view dynamically, right in the system, coming out of WinFS, because all these items, faxes, RTC conversations, emails, documents, etc., are all part of this base schema, and we can generate this view on the fly, and again, this is part of what's available to you in the platform. So I keep talking about the platform, but I keep showing you how we're using it ourselves. So we thought about, let's show you an application using this stuff. And instead of starting off with an application that's built top to bottom on top of Longhorn, we said we thought we'd start with something with already a big investment in Win32. Anyone here have any Win32 investments? Just a couple. And as you already know from what Bill said, if you've already been investing in .NET on XP, you're well on your way to a bunch of this stuff. But we really want to make sure that you can leverage the most out of your existing investments. So here we are in this Win32 application. We took it, it's OE, built-in Windows Mail app. And again, notice as I type, I get this little choice here to find more names. What this brings up is a common file dialog, but for people. It's not files after all. They're people sitting in WinFS. And it lets me actually look at this entire list in this big corporation of all the people that I could choose from, or even search my corporate directory. I think we have the corporate directory from Microsoft here. I can search. Let me search for Chris. It's very convenient that there's only one Chris at Microsoft. I don't know how we made that happen. All right. Click, and now notice, by the way, that's just bringing up the dialog. I can embed that right in my application. As I start typing, I get an Avalon common control embedded right in my application that lets me pick from a variety of people to actually go and address my mail. So we can go send a body of text to app to take, let's see if we can get through this without a typo. Oh yeah. And hit send. There you go. Existing application, leveraging the platform, right with their existing investment and already getting the benefit right out of the box. All right. So if you've been paying close attention, you may have noticed up in my sidebar, I have a buddy list. And this person's offline, these people are online, but here it says Craig is nearby. And in fact, any of you who've been watching up on the stage, Craig is in fact nearby. Hey, Craig.
Hey, I am nearby. More importantly, though, my laptop is nearby.
Hey, Craig, how's it going?
Fabulous, how are you? Hey, good demo so far, but I thought, really before the PDC gets kicked off, I thought, I've been taking some notes, I could give you some feedback on your presentation.
Actually, now's not a good time.
We're among friends, aren't we?
The nicest thing about this is how natural and unscripted it sounds.
It feels very natural to talk just like this.
All right, so Craig wants to do a pretty simple thing that everyone here can relate to. He wants to share some information with me. He has a peer-to-peer connection with me, this persistent peer-to-peer connection that's, again, part of the platform and the communication stack, and he wants to share something. But he doesn't just want to share it, he wants to do a little bit of show and tell. So in fact, what Craig's done, he's done a couple of things already. One, he's made it possible for me to see him on our network right here because he's nearby. So not everyone can do that. He's allowed that to be possible. And he's already started publishing a presentation on our network. So he's projecting his screen onto the network. If there were more folks with this type of machine right here, you'd all be able to see it projected. It's kind of like a broadcast. So I could either click on Craig, or I could go right here in the start menu and get a list of all the available presentations that are being broadcast. So let's view the presentation. Here's Craig. Now, what's going to come up on my screen is actually a live view of what's on Craig's machine. You can see his start menu and taskbar, etc. And he can actually move around as we go. This is not a static image. This is a live broadcast of what Craig is doing. Right now it's one-to-one, but it could be one-to-many right off the Longhorn PC. Now, as cool as that may be, let's actually resize that. You may think that a bunch of, there is no bathroom breaks here, I'm sorry. You may think that actually resizing would mean all sorts of unmanageable scroll bars and having to go and move around to try and see everything at once. In fact, I'm just going to hit restore and watch what happens to the window automatically because of our Avalon presentation services. Automatic resize on the fly. Even as I resize it, it moves around, and Craig is doing it live right on my desktop. All right, so let's move this down here. So in some ways, we've done the hard part. Craig has done this personal TV broadcast essentially to my machine. The easy part you would think would be just sharing a file, not broadcasting, but just a simple file sharing over this persistent peer-to-peer relationship that we have. And in fact, that frankly is pretty hard these days too. So Craig is now going to go open up one of these dynamic views that I showed you before, like the communications history, like documents, like contacts, of all the files that I've shared with him. Here they are. Now I want you to watch this space closely. I'm now going to move over to my desktop. I'm going to right-click on this file, this image, and I'm going to hit Share with Craig. And watch. When I click, what happens over on Craig's machine? 3, 2, 1, boom. There it is. Instantly replicated over to Craig's machine. Even if he would disconnect, he has access to it. Craig double-click. Let's make sure it's the same one. There it is. All right, so if I check our clock here, we are running out of time, so I'm going to move along. Thank you, Craig. Great job. Okay, so again, I talked to you about the fact that we're building a lot of that on top of this technology, we're building a ton of the Windows experience. But the fact is, we want to show you how an application that's built top to bottom might look on top of the pillars that Bill talked about. So, for example, let's actually open up this web page here. This is a common situation. You have an application, whether it's an internal application or a commercial application that you want to deploy to your customers. Today, deployment is hard. It's expensive to test. You have to make trade-offs between building a web application or a client application that lead to all sorts of different choices and results when it comes to deploying your app. I'm going to click right here on the website for this developer, and what's going to happen right now is the app is getting installed on my machine as we speak. I can tell you of no worse fear for a demoer than installing an app in front of a big audience. So, there's no big dialogue. This is essentially just the delay while we go and make sure that the app's going to work. We do all of the security stuff. All the bits come down off the wire, and we get this brand new Avalon-based application launched right on our screen, one click. All the things that I showed you before are also available in here. The search facility built into WinFS. I just go type my string, hit go. Sure enough, there is my item. Now, what are these things? We talked before about viewing items that are in WinFS right in the shell and how that's available as part of the platform. Well, here's a bunch of items in WinFS that are shown in this application. Furthermore, we talked about extending the schema and how a developer can do that. So we have arguments and evidence and precedents and people, all schema extensions that this developer did in this sample application to the base schema that come with Windows. We talked about creating relationships between items in WinFS. Notice, as I hover over each of these items, the items that show up in yellow are actual relationships. And so if I were to click, for example, right on this person, watch, all of the items that are related to it show up in this custom Avalon view. I want to show that one more time because I want to show you how seamless it is. Remember, yes, Avalon provides built-in common controls that you can use to get up and running fast. They're very flexible and very powerful. But at the same time, you can also talk to Avalon lower in the stack and decide you want to go do your own custom view. And the transition between these is just seamless. Click, animate, there's the custom view. Now, Avalon's not just about showing UI. It's not just about graphics. It's about media as well. So here, as part of evidence, we have a video. Let's click on that video, and I want you to see how this developer in their sample app has tried to show that integrated into the application itself. This is video of the actual accident. It's very convenient that we have professional camera crews filming the accident from multiple angles. I don't know how that happened. But again, look at that again. I mean, right in the application, they decided they wanted a circle, they decided what to show, they decided to fade it back out into the UI, all built on the platform that we're providing in Longhorn. All right, so let me do something else. Now, I've talked a lot about WinFS, talked a lot about Avalon. I want to talk a little bit, because we don't have too much time, about Indigo. When you think about Indigo, you should think about web services. It's really on that path that Bill talked about in terms of making all those connections between all the information at work and at home. So in this application, they've exposed a web service, LexisNexis. What happened? LexisNexis has decided that they want to expose their service as a web service. This ISV decided to consume that web service. We showed you before searching across the local machine, across the corporate network, and now let's add searching across this web service. So I click here, hit search. Sure enough, I get results from all three places. Go to LexisNexis. Here's my document, and remember, secure authentication, the transactions have all happened in the background. And in order to consume this data from this web service, we didn't have to go to the LexisNexis application. LexisNexis information is showing right in this developer's app, courtesy of Indigo. And if I want to bring this information right into my application and my network, this document rather, I can click on it, drag, and then drop it and go create a relationship on the fly straight from the web service. Let's drop it on Jeff. And then notice, as I hover over Jeff, here's the document. When I hover over the document, there's the relationship with Jeff. I click on Jeff. Oop, gotta close this. Let's click on Jeff. Here it is. Now, I talked about Avalon being this great platform for showing media and UI and great graphics. But you know what? Text and layout and integrating that into the flow is also very, very critical. So I'm going to click on this Avalon formatted document, and you'll notice it's courtesy of the LexisNexis CourtLink web service. And in fact, this is all rendered via Avalon. If I were to, for example, hover over the scroll bar here at the bottom, notice I get this rich thumbnail of the third page. Click on it, navigate. Click on it, navigate. Now let's open another one of these. Now here's another example with text and video integrated. I can go do that same little thumbnail preview on the scroll bar. I click, navigate to page 3. Now here's the big question. If I hover over the area of the scroll bar for the second page, will I get live video in the thumbnail? Yes! Yes! Let's do it. Click, there it is. Live video, right there, you can see it. And let me click and go straight to the page of the document itself. All right. That's all the time I have. There's 3 things that you take away. 1, we are very excited to show you this. There's several thousand developers up in Redmond watching us live right now. Thrilled that we finally get to show you some of our early work and very excited to hear your feedback. Second, we're using this ourselves. We're building the next generation of Windows on top of this great technology. And third, we're thrilled to see what you're going to do with it. There's a lot more great stuff coming up. Thank you very much.
Excited about the opportunity, thrilled to have you all here kicking off the Longhorn generation. Thank you. I don't know if you noticed on the agenda, there is no break. We have